I've been building special one-off bikes for quite a long time before the 48 cylinder. The first special I built was in 1985. I started this project, it was actually a 5-year program, but I did about 85% of the work in the last 12 months, which was quite traumatic for me. Well, the Kawasaki Triples Rally is where it all started. I've been going there since 1985 every year, and every now and again someone would turn up on a hybrid Kawasaki Triple, which I like the look of. So shortly after that, about 1987, I built a 4-cylinder Triple. That then went into a triple, which had 9 cylinders, and then I built the inline 7 Triple, and then I built an H2R replica, and in a way this bike was the bike to end all of that. It's called Tinker Toy, which I got the name from the Duxford Air Museum, which was the name of a flying fortress in the Second World War. It's quite a famous story. Although those flying fortresses were given names, this one was called Tinker Toy, which is actually the American version of Meccano. So it's sort of come full circle, the name. It's not made for speed, it's not really made for power. It was made to get in the Guinness Book of Records. It's got to be able to do about 120-30 miles an hour. The cylinders are off a KH250, which was the most prolific Kawasaki Triple they made, so the parts were pretty easy to get hold of and quite cheap. The whole exhaust system was handmade. I had to make it in sections, the headers, because as soon as you welded one end, the other end started twisting. So once you made the headers, the conventional middle pipes were just stainless steel, which I had a guy bend up. I had to machine some brackets for it, and then they all tip into, it's a 24-into-1 system, they tip into a conventional 4-stroke end can. This looks like the tank is actually, it was an original KH250 tank, cut about here and here with another section welded in. It's simply a cover and housing the Lumination electronic ignition circuits. These are the amplifier boards for the ignition. Come back here, you've got the throttle splitter, which had to be made out of billet. The throttle comes down here, and you have to obviously split it. It's quite stiff, but it's perfectly usable. One cable coming from the twist grip comes round this wheel, so reverses, it can go off to the carbs. And this is a small header tank for the donkey engine. There's a water cooling circuit, runs around here, filled up from here, and that's just to allow a bit of heat to dissipate when you're firing up this engine on repeated starts. A little fuse box at the back here, all the wiring loom I made myself. Sneaked away down here is a small car alternator, which provides electricity, of course. This is the BMW gearbox with its standard gear lever. I had to extend the shaft slightly. It's a little bit fiddly to get at, but that wasn't really the whole point. So BMW footrest mounts slightly altered to miss the pipe. The front wheel is made by Hagon. They've strung a Hagon aluminium rim with their stainless steel spokes onto a Honda Goldwing front hub, holding the Honda Goldwing discs, brakes, calipers, forks. We put an extra spring on here just to take the weight, and pretty much the whole of the front end is Honda Goldwing, apart from the clocks, which are KH250 Kawasaki. Dave Sperry, the engineer who built all that end of the bike, he basically had to adapt all of it. He machined up a new hub, and Hagon put it into one of their rims, stainless steel spokes, heaviest duty you can get. Underneath a fairly conventional seat, which is just made out of sheet steel. The tailpiece here is Kawasaki KH250, but I did have to widen it by about 1.5 inches just to fit the frame. You have the battery compartment, no battery in there at the moment, and the donkey engine, which is a 125 2-stroke twist and go scooter job. Down running through here is the exhaust. There's no silencer on it, which is why it's so loud. But once the main engine's running, it's very smooth. It's so many cylinders. The more cylinders you have, the smoother. This collection of pipes here collects any overflow from the carburetors, which previously was dripping over the distributors and causing a small fire. These are the main fuel distribution pipes which run around all of the carburetors and the donkey engine at the back of the bike, and they come back to the fuel pump through a little restrictor nozzle which gives it the right amount of fuel pressure. To start the bike, it's a manual choke, so you push that lever down, that's the choke on. Once it's warmed up, you pull them off. Turn the ignition on here, which would power up the fuel pump and the ignition system. This is the ignition switch for the donkey engine, so that livens that up. So you push that until it starts, rev it on here. Once that's running fine, you can turn it off, and you're on to normal running. But you've got to be careful. If this thing falls on you, you will lose your leg. It's 600 kilograms. I've started it on numerous occasions. It's a little bit tricky to ride, but before we brought it here to this museum, its final resting place for now, I did ride it. If anybody wanted to make me a serious offer on this bike, personally I don't want to sell it. The money's not important, but if £500,000 turned up, I could be persuaded. Don't tell the wife.